Everyone, welcome in. As the title says, we're talking about borrow time and why I think it should be base kit and why I think it should stack with the perk as well. I posted this on the forum yesterday and I'm not surprised with the reaction I got to it, but we'll talk about that in a second. Basically, the reason why I posted it yesterday is because in the last few months I have noticed a massive increase on tunnel and camping in Dead by Daylight. Certainly a lot more than I used to see it. And I think skill-based matchmaking is a big part of why, because that's obviously made it tougher for killers. On top of that, I think binge as well is another reason why too. But in the post I mentioned Darrow's challenge, and I mentioned Wispy's tournament, which I will talk about at some point. I don't blame Darrow or Wispy, just in case anyone tries to say that I'm blaming him for them. I don't. I just blame the way people are interpreting the tournament Wispy run and the challenge that Darrow came up with. Anyway, borrow time should become base kit. It was mentioned by Patrick in the last FAQ. And it should stack with the borrow time perk as well, and at the same time the 12 seconds should be increased to 24 seconds. So therefore, if someone is using borrow time base kit perk and on top of the base kit, that will be 48 seconds with someone who's just been unhooked, can't be attacked by the killer. That should on its own put tunneling out of the game completely. But at the same time, I do think the proximity to hook penalty should be trebled, because right now it doesn't do anything. It doesn't prevent people camping at all. And the whole point of behaviour introducing that, you would think, was to put an end to camping. It hasn't done that, so it needs to be increased in some way. I think it should be trebled, and that could potentially put people off camping. Now people will say that basically it's overpowered. Borrow time, they'll say my suggestion with borrow time is overpowered. It's crazy, it's insanity, I'm bonkers, I'm an entitled survivor. I'm only saying this because I think it's wrong for people to tunnel and camp, and it's just my opinion, it's not a rule in the game or anything like that. This is the type of things that I've seen in the forum. But they're all just desperation, desperate arguments for people to tunnel and camp. It's well known, it's been known for longer than I've been playing the game, but tunneling camping is just not fun for the people you're playing against. You know that for a certainty, you don't need me to tell you that, you already know that. But yes, you're right, it isn't a specific rule in the game. However, it should be a rule in the game that you don't tunnel and camp. Because it's not fun. And quite frankly, there's no skill to it really. There isn't a lot of skill to it. Now, I know some people will be pointing out that I just proxy camped there, but I was being looped around the paddle or near the hooker by someone, so that was the reason why I was sticking around. So I'm just covering that because I know some people may comment on that. But yeah, when it comes to borrow time base kit stacking with borrow time and it being increased for 48 seconds, it's only overpowered if you tunnel the person off the hook. If you go for the person who unhooked, on a scale of 0 to 10, it's a 0. If you go for the person unhooked, if you go for the person who was hooked, then it's a 10. And it should be. Now, if you come to me and say to me that's going to be which you got overpowered in endgame, then I'd be like, yeah, you got a fair point there, because most of the time, camping is the only actual. Hard camping, as I call it. Hard camping is basically where you don't leave the hook at all. Proxy camping is when you leave the hook and come back. Just for those that don't know. But hard camping is pretty much the only play you have in end game, because most of the time the exits are quite far apart and there's still like pallets up and there's like T-wall, L-walls and all this kind of stuff in the way as well. So a lot of time that is there, and it's kind of a fun part of end game, because end game's like a match within the match basically there, and part of that is that type of strategy. Yeah, where you do that. So yeah, that is what I think basically there. And in-game borrow time base kit and borrow time perk should be disabled along with the proximity to hook penalty as well. They all should be disabled. Now in the forum I did actually say that if someone actually hooks the same survivor in a row while there's 3-4 survivors in the match, they should get a blood point penalty. I don't think that should. I just did that to troll people, to be honest. I do think if they added it, it would certainly put at the end of Tunnel on its own. But the borrow time perk plus borrow time base kit and it being doubled from 12 to 24 seconds should put an end to Tunnel, I would feel. If not, then you could obviously do the just to reiterate, on the forum I did say that I feel like there should be a blood point penalty if a killer hooks the same survivor twice in a row if there's 3-4 survivors in the match. I don't think that should happen. But I did that just to show people because I knew the type of reaction I would get in the forum about that. So yeah, but borrow time base kit and borrow time perks should stack together and it should be increased. That would put an end to it. Now people will say I'm an entitled survivor. I'm a survivor main who's just shown their entitlement. But this is just my opinion of what the rules should be and how people should play. But here's the thing, it's not just my opinion. It's the opinion of many players. This has been a thing since longer than I've been playing the game. Most players know this, even the players who do tunnel in camp know for a fact that it's not fun for there. There's people who make sort of reaction videos over tunneling camping and getting people to disconnect from the game. You all know who I'm talking about. Their Spooking Jukes has made pretty much streaming. There he's built a community around that. He even talked about it in Notretsam challenge video when he was talking about that video. He said he's made a community based around it. He's built his community around that theme basically of tunneling and camping, and he has a basement bubba day and everything like that as well. But he even knows it's deep down it's not fun for the people that he does that to. But yet he still does it along with other people as well. To me, I think that's selfish. Now, admittedly, just because someone does this in the game, it doesn't necessarily mean they're an asshole. And in that point, I do apologise to Spooking Jukes, because in one of Spooky Luke's videos, where Spooky Luke was talking to Spooking Jukes, that's quite tough to say in a row there, Spooky Luke and Spooking Jukes. But Luke was talking to Jukes about it, basically. And they were talking about his reaction to his videos and the way he plays the game and that. And I wrote in the video called Spooking Jukes an asshole in the video for that. I do apologise to him for that because I did actually watch his content. And admittedly, even though I disagree with the way he plays, he does actually seem like a sane guy away from the game. So that's something that I learned basically from watching his content. It's just because someone does play like this in the game doesn't mean they're a horrible human being away from the game. It just means they play a game in a way it's not fun for other people. And I think that's wrong. In my opinion, I think it's wrong. I think it's well known that that is not fun for other people. I think the game should be fun for everyone because everyone is playing the game for the exact same reason, to have fun and to escape from life, because let's be real. The world kind of sucks. Well, not the world, humanity pretty much sucks. With everything that's going on in Ukraine right now with COVID and everything that's been going on, we're all looking for escapism. Streaming and content creating has seen an increase due to COVID times and people being locked up at home. And there, so we're all looking for the escape and into games and play games. Now, mentally, if you're having an especially bad day, Dead by Daylight probably isn't the best game you should be escaping into. You probably should find something else. But at times, Dead by Daylight can be a lot of fun. So if you're having a lot of fun playing this game and you're looking to escape, you're going to come to the game, but you're having a lot of fun. That's just natural. So yeah, and I just walked into a wall there video. But yes, so yeah, that's what I believe. I believe it's not fun. I believe it's everyone knows that it's not fun, but yet people keep doing it. And here's the fun for what I will say is there is no rule against tunneling camping. Let's be real. There is no rule against tunneling camping, but there is people who say there's a mechanic for tunneling camping. There's not. There's a mechanic for killers to down survivors when hook the survivor, and there's a mechanic for other survivors to unhook them. There's not a mechanic for tunneling camping in the game at all. There is, however, a mechanic for borrow time perk, a mechanic for decisive strike, and there's a proximity to hook penalty. Now, granted, they aren't doing anything to really put an end to tunneling and camping. What I suggest, I think, would put an end to tunneling camping And I also actually think it would actually help killers out in the long run as well, and I'll explain later why that is. But first, I want to say something else. Killers can ruin a match more than survivors, but a survivor can actually ruin the game for a killer as well. Survivors are just as bad with the cheap tactics as killers are. Killers have, they can actually ruin a match more than a survivor, mostly because the tactics that a survivor does to, well, the cheap tactics basically like abusing head on and clicking the flashlight and teabagging and double blinding and all that stuff that the survivors do to make a killer mad, so they keep chasing them. A killer can work around that for the most part, and for the most part that is actually helping a killer out because they're not in a gen. So that can be worked around, but a killer who's tunneling camping, that can ruin a match for everyone in the game. There, also, I don't really see the fun of that as a killer as well. I don't see the challenge to it at all. But just to point out that I'm not like an entitled survivor, which I'm sure I'll get accused of being. But I do play killer as well. I do see that survivors are just as bad with the cheap tactics as killer is as too, and something does need to be done about that, and I'll talk about that at the end as well. But as I said, right now, killers can ruin a match more than survivors due to tunneling camping, and I have seen a massive increase in that. An increase to the point where I'm actually concerned about it, because as you've seen on the Steam stats, what a lot of people have been talking about, the stats have gone down. I don't believe skill-based matchmaking is the only reason why. I do think it's the main reason why, but I think it's like a final nail thing. I think people were frustrated with the tunneling and camping. They were frustrated with the way survivors play the game as well. They were frustrated with the whole community, because let's be real, it's not just a survivor thing. It's not just a killer thing. It's a Dead by Daylight community as a whole thing. The way people play this game. So there's a lot of people who put their own need to win or their own need to for fun ahead of other people's fun in the game, and that's just selfish. I don't care what excuse you come up with for doing it or anything like that, but it's selfish to put your own need of fun ahead of other people. That's just a fact, and it's a fact that's been well known since longer than I've been playing the game, and I've been playing the game for about a year there. But at the same time, going back to the killers and going back to borrow time, I do recognise that the game is heavily stacked towards survivors right now, but it's still no excuse for doing it. You know, two wrongs don't make a right, I feel like. Also, as I said, survivors are just as bad with cheap tactics, but in the long run, borrow time base kit becoming a thing, and borrow time and stacking it with borrow time perk and it being increased from 12 to 24 seconds would actually help with killers in the long run. And here's why. One, clearly behaviour takes stock in their kill stats. Clearly they do that. They released the kill stats in the last FAQ. Their skill-based matchmaking is based on kills. So clearly kills are important. Clearly this is part of the stats that they look at helps determine what they do next in the game. It's probably not the only reason, but it is a reason why. So when you tunnel in camp, you're actually giving them false stats, because if you didn't tunnel in camp, would you got the same amount of kills if you didn't tunnel in camp? Most of the time, probably not. Maybe sometimes you would have, but most of the time you probably wouldn't have. So therefore, the behaviour see these stats on, say, Bubba. Bubba's a popular killer for people who basement Bubba basically. So let's use Bubba as an example. There, so you tunnel in camp with Bubba, you do the basement Bubba thing, you get 4k and that there. That way that gets added stats and that puts you Bubba's skill stats up. So behaviour comes along, looks at that, think, oh, nothing wrong there. But if you didn't do the basement Bubba thing and you didn't camp and tunnel, and no one ever did that with there, what would the kill stats in Bubba be then? It would probably be a lot lower. Maybe it'd be low enough for behaviour to look at that and think, maybe we need to do something here. Maybe we need to give Bubba a buff. Oh, that was tough to say. Bubba a buff. Now, we all know Bubba's actually a pretty strong killer. He's one of the strongest killers in the game, because in a chase he's just brutal, basically. So he probably doesn't need a buff, and it probably isn't the best example to do it, but since people do use Bubba, it's a basement Bubba. But let's say with Pig, for example. Pig is one of the worst killers in the game. Let's say you camped, or you do that thing where you camp one of the traps removals, You just stay there and you actually get a 4K because everyone dies because the traps that you put on them exploded because you used the add-on that puts a trap on right from the beginning. I can't remember how many gens. I think it's the first gen it pops, so it activates. I can't actually remember, but it activates at some point, and then potentially if they can't get the trap removed because you're just guarding that champ there, so you're blocking it from basically getting to them. Some people do that. So let's say for that, for example, you get 4K that way. The behavior comes along, looks at the kill stats, and I think, oh, that's fine. There's nothing we need to do with pig. But imagine for a second if Dead by Daylight community as a whole decided never to kill any survivor with the pig. Imagine no one ever actually killed a survivor with the pig. The stats go down. What would you think would be behaviour's reaction to that? Now, I meant like it's extreme example here. I don't deny that, but I would imagine that would turn a few heads of behaviour if they saw no kill stats at all for pig. If they saw a drop in any kill stats for a killer, it's going to send off a red alert to them, and they're going to look at that and think, okay, we need to do something here. What's going on here, basically? So imagine that. So when you actually turn on camp, you're actually increasing the kill stats for that killer you're doing it with, and therefore it's less chance of behaviour to come along and look at that and think, okay, there's something wrong here. We need to change the game. And we all know the game is heavily balanced towards survivors, but behaviour are never going to change anything unless they see signs that they need to change it. When you turn on camp, you're actually preventing the kill stats to be more accurate and more of a sign that the game is actually imbalanced. And we all know it is imbalanced. So yeah, that would actually, borrow time would actually, if I'm right, and I'm pretty sure borrow time base kit and borrow time perk stacking together and increase to 40 seconds would do a lot to remove turn on and camping in the game, and also the proximity hook penalty being increased as well. That would actually there. Now the thing is, I just want to reiterate again, but I do think borrow time perk, borrow time base kit, and the proximity to hook penalty should be disabled in game. I'm pretty sure I said that earlier in the game. I was watching the match there and I was like, oh, a game there, but earlier in the video, I'm pretty sure I said that. But I do think it should be disabled in the end game because a lot of time it needs to be. That's the only play you have really is to camp a hook a lot of time. So I think it should be disabled there. So I'm just repeating that again there to remind you of that. But I do think it would help in the sense of what I was talking about with the kill stats. Two, I do actually think it would make you a better killer if you didn't turn on camp. I truly do believe that. I don't think there's much skill to turn on camping. There's a little bit of a skill, but there's more skill to actually not turn on camping and get a free K that way. Notice I say free K. That's what I think. I think actually there's not a lot of skill to turn on camping. There's some skill to it, basically. You obviously in the end game when you're doing that, basically you want to try and grab a survivor who's on a hooking and try and time it there. Personally, I try and hit a survivor who's on the way to the hook, and then from enough distance away from the hook, I try and hit the survivor then there because that gives me enough time for me the animation where I get stuck into to end, and basically I can hit them a second time and exchange a hook. That's what I try and do. So there's a bit of a skill to it, but at the same time there's more skill to not turn on camping, I feel like. So I do think you would actually become a better killer in the game. I really do think that. Thirdly, what I'm suggesting with borrow time as well is it actually hurts you in in-game because borrow time, if someone's got borrow time, they're just going to earn a hook and you may as well forget about it, you may as well just go stand in the corner and let them do it because you know they've got borrow time because you're not going to exchange hooks, you're not going to be able to catch them basically there, so you may as well just go stand in the corner with borrow time perk. So what I'm suggesting actually disables borrow time perk and borrow time base kit in in-game too, and increases your chances of being able to exchange hooks in in-game too. So that's a third reason that would help you out as well. The only people that would have a problem with what I'm suggesting are the people who want to turn on camp and want to deny someone else's fun in the game because they want to put their own need for fun or own need to win or what they perceive to be a win in the game there. And here's the thing, one other thing as well too, there's no such thing as winning and losing in Dead by Daylight. People will be saying I'm crazy, How can I say that? Skill-based matchmaking is based on escapes and kills. Of course there's winning and losing a game, but there's not. There is no such thing as winning and losing. I truly believe that every game has a foundation that it's built on. I don't think for 1 second the foundation Dead by Daylight was built on included winning or losing. And I think up until September last year when skill-based matchmaking was introduced, there was no winning or losing in the game. That's true. Skill-based matchmaking has hurt the chat there, and admittedly I do think it's the main reason why people are tunneling camping more. But there is no such thing as winning and losing. And if you think about it, most horror movies, a killer never kills every single one. That's how they set up a sequel. The reason why we had a Scream movie that came out this year or just last year is because 3 of the original characters from there, the characters played by Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox and David Arquette, all survived the first movie. The reason why we have a new Halloween movie coming out is because Jamie Lee Curtis' character Laurie Strode survived the very first Halloween movie, which was a long, long time ago. The reason why Elm Street movies got made is because, I forget her name right now, but she kept surviving the movies as well, right now as well. But the reason why sequels happen in horror movies is because the killer never actually kills anyone. That's the reason why, and that's the reason why I said freaky, because I always let the 4th person out, because they live to tell the tale of me, which I think is kind of funny. They obviously don't tell the tale much, they probably forget all about it and move on to the next match, but in my mind for a second I do enjoy the thought of that. And to me it's true to horror movies as well. So yeah, I do believe killers shouldn't actually win. I do believe 4K shouldn't be a thing in this game. I think it's more true to horror movies, which is what this game is based on, just in case you were wondering. So yeah, that is what I think. I don't think there's such a thing as winning or losing. If you want to achieve, there's like 197 plus achievements to go and do. There's plenty of achievements, there's always new ones getting added in. To me, the fun of the game is trying to get killed, trying to escape as a survivor. There, but most of the time, like in this game here, I actually die in this match, but I had fun because I was able to loop 100s, and I'm usually not very good at looping 100s, so I had fun in this match. To me, that's a win. I had fun, so that's a win for me. And I wish more players thought like that, basically, because admittedly on last year I got so frustrated with skill-based matchmaking and so frustrated with boons, like most people did, that I ended up taking a month break from the game because I wasn't having fun and I was starting to look for any excuse to tunnel in camp. Like one match in the old Haydenfield map, I tunneled a Claudette out because they put a boon up. And to me, I use that as an excuse to tunnel Claudette right out of the game, because if I didn't, she would just run to the boon and get healed. And that was running me. I actually got called out by the person who played Jake in the game, and he called me a shit person, and rightfully so, because I was a shit person towards Claudette in that game. I ruined her experience in the game, all because I was frustrated over with boons, and eventually I realised the way I was starting to play that it was time for me to basically leave the game and take a break. So I took a break for a month, came back, and admittedly, ever since I've started to play killer in a way where I don't expect to win, because I'm not meant to win, I've actually realised that basically the game is much more fun that way. Whenever I actually expected to win, I'm actually getting distracted by me hitting the hook here, which is kind of funny to me. And my 2 teammates just building me as well, and there was nothing that my other teammates could do. Anyway, that's my point with base kit there. I kind of rambled on and went over the place. I'm not the best talker. I do talk myself, and I do get distracted by Dead by Daylight videos as well. There, but anyway, that's my viewpoint of base kit borrow time there. I don't think it's fun for people who you do that to. I think it's well known in the community, even people who do say that you're allowed to tunnel in camp. I don't think it's fun. I think it's not fun. Yes, it's not against the rules of the game. It should be against the rules of the game. And I think behaviour should come out and actually say it's against the rules of the game, but they're against tunneling camping, because it should be fun for everyone. And I've had 2 friends in the past, long before skill-based matchmaking, who actually left the game because of tunneling camping. So there is people who do leave the game over it. And in the forum post I posted as well, a new player. Someone said they were a new player and they were getting targeted a lot because they were a new player as well, and it wasn't fun for them. There's a lot of new players coming into the game that get caught up in this gameplay, and it's not fun for them, and they get put off the game. We want we want the turnover in new players to keep there. We don't want a revolving door where new players come in and they get chased away from the game. We want this game to keep growing, and keep having new players to come in, and basically that's true there. So tunneling camping does hurt the game in the long run too. As I said, I don't think skill-based matchmaking is the only reason for the stats to go down the Steam. I think tunneling camping is a reason why too, but the skill-based matchmaking was like a final nail. And as I said earlier in the game, I think it's selfish, but I'm starting to repeat myself a little bit here. So hopefully I've covered everything in this. Oh wait, yeah, we wanted to talk about survivors, because as I say, survivors are just as bad as killers. For example, head-on should be disabled, basically, because people will run you into locker, like your friend is in there. So head-on should be disabled. It should be changed to a perk called lock-in, LOCK, just in case my Scottish accent and you couldn't understand me say lock there, because I do have a Scottish accent which is quite thick. So you might not understand what I just said there, so I'll spell out lock for you. But yeah, lock-in is basically a perk where if you go into a locker and either a killer or survivor can open that locker for a period of time. I think at level 1 it should be 30 seconds, at level 2 it should be 35 seconds, at level 3 it would be 40 seconds. But I would replace head-on perk. And that to me is better, that way you can't get run into lockers there. Also, brand new part, I think, in all offerings should be removed from the game as well. There really isn't a need to increase the distance between the hooks or decrease the distance between the hooks. There really isn't a need for that anymore, I feel like. And with scourge hooks in the game, it's actually kind of really important that killers get to the hook there, and that would actually help the balance of the game too. Brand new part, the game has evolved to a point where brand new part isn't needed. People can do gens pretty fast without brand new part, so that should be removed as well. Also, I think there should be something done about the teabagging and the flashlight. I think blinds at pallets should be removed from the game, the ability to do that. I think the ability to crouch at pallets after they drop the pallet, like when obviously they can direct when that killer's at one side, the pallet's in the middle, and the survivor's on the other side. I think the ability to use the flashlight and to crouch should be removed. It should be disabled at that point. You notice what I did there? I ignored Jane, who was just on the hook, and I went for and I'm going for Leo here, who is actually body blocking there, and is now leading the way and is about to pallet stun me. I get pallet stunned way too much, so I do. But yeah, I do think that should be done there. I think there should be other things like a penalty for survivors who fast vault there, because I've seen survivors who constantly fast vault to get attention. I think there should be a blood point penalty against survivors who do that fast vault while not in a chase. What else? What tactics did they do? I think I think the ability to sabotage hooks with the toolbox should be removed as well. But that's more to do with the blood web, actually, me no one, the sabotage add-ons. That was a nice body block there. Anyway, I think I've covered pretty much everything here. I'm currently watching the match and trying to process my thoughts here at the same time and seeing if there's anything else that I've missed, but I think that's pretty much everything I've said. I've probably repeated myself a few times. I have a habit of doing that. And eventually, after the video, I'll be like, oh no, I forgot to say this. And then I'll probably post up another video in the future saying, yeah, you know that video I posted a while ago? Yeah, well, I forgot to talk about this. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please like the video. If you'd like to see future content like this one, please subscribe for future content. And until next time, y'all take care.